Why is it that some people only have to open their mouth and the whole room falls completely silent, while when I talk and talk, people just want to get away? In every conversation, there is always this one kind of person. They say only a few sentences, yet the atmosphere shifts. Everyone listens and remembers for a very long time. And then there is the main character of today's video. It could be you or me. We talk a lot, talk continuously, try hard to impress, but what we receive in return are just half-hearted nods, distracted eyes, and an invisible wall between and the person sitting across from us. The problem is not that we are not fun enough, not bright enough, or not loud enough. It's that our words don't have weight. That weight comes from knowing when to speak and when to be silent, by saying exactly what needs to be said, without embellishing, by daring to loosen our need to perform, to be less afraid of silence, so that every word can truly reach the listener. And that is when we realize, sometimes, our allure does not lie in what we add on, but in the things we are calm enough to let go of. There is one straightforward English sentence, but if you use it the right way, it can completely change how others feel about you. Tell me more about that. Please tell me more. Most of us are programmed with a reflex. The moment someone finishes saying something, we rush in with, "Oh, I'm like that too. Let me tell you about it." It sounds harmless, but in reality, that's the moment you snatch the mic back toward yourself. The conversation shifts from them to you in a matter of seconds. And you think you're connecting, while in fact, you've just dimmed the lights that were shining on the inner world of the person in front of you. The character in this video starts doing something very different. Instead of cutting in to tell their own story, they simply say, "Tell me more about that." Not asking just to be polite, not asking just for the sake of it, and then secretly using that time to think about what they'll say next. But truly listening, not preloading a response, not rushing to a conclusion, not competing to look deep. The result is extraordinary. The other person suddenly feels that they themselves are more interesting. They feel listened to, expanded, and acknowledged. And naturally, they want to come back and talk to you again. Not because you are great, but because they feel greater when they are next to you. The message here is razor sharp. You don't need to become the most interesting person in the room. You just need to be the one who makes others feel that they themselves are more interesting when they're with you. That is the power of giving the spotlight back with a question that seems small, but is enough to say to the person in front of you, "The world inside you is worth my stopping and listening to." There is a sentence that may sound weak, but in truth, it is a rapid test that separates those who are performing from those who are truly steady on the inside. That sentence is, "I don't know." People who perform well always carry a hidden fear, the fear of being exposed as not as capable as their facade. So they try to invent extra knowledge, talk in circles, and fill the air with statements that sound intelligent, acting as if they already know it all. It sounds impressive, but the more you listen, the more you sense something hollow. By contrast, those who are truly confident have a very different reflex. When they step beyond the edges of their ability, they look you in the eye and say, "I don't know." No beating around the bush. No justifying why they don't know. No apologizing for failing to meet someone's expectations. In that moment, something interesting happens. Suddenly, what they do know becomes far more trustworthy. Because you understand. If they don't know, they will say they don't know. So when they say, "I'm certain," it isn't an act. This is the moment our protagonist steps out of the role of the fake expert, the one who must always have an answer to everything, and steps into being an authentic person, one who dares to accept their limits. And the paradox is this, that humility creates a magnetism that's hard to explain. We are not won over by the one who knows everything, but drawn to the one strong enough to say, "I don't know this part, but if needed, I can go find out." That is not just a line. It is the fine boundary between pretending to understand life and true maturity within each of us. There is a reflex almost all of us have fallen into. When someone shares their pain, we instantly switch to advisor mode. This is simple. You just need to. You should do this and that. It sounds helpful, but beneath it lies an icy message. What's the big deal? Why don't you just handle it yourself? And just like that, the person in pain suddenly feels even lonelier. The protagonist in this video chooses an entirely different way. When the other person speaks of their exhaustion, of the knots they don't know how to untie, they don't jump in to fix, they don't rush to analyze. They simply answer, gently, "That sounds difficult." Only 4 words. Don't fix. Don't teach. Don't make the problem smaller. Simply acknowledge. Yeah, that really is heavy for you. And something strange happens. The other person opens up more. They keep talking, go deeper, retrace their feelings, untangle themselves in the very act of telling, while you just sit there, quiet, yet fully present. The character's role is not the great advisor, not the one with the sharpest advice in the room, but the calm witness, the one who gives others a safe space to be vulnerable, to exhale without fear of being judged, without fear of being looked down on. In a world where everyone rushes to prove how capable they are, the one who dares to pause, who dares to say, "That sounds difficult, huh?" creates a very different kind of magnetism. The magnetism of understanding something no amount of clever reasoning can replace. Among the 4 sentences that create magnetism, the 4th sounds like it isn't even a sentence. It is silence. This is the most rigid discipline for an ego that's always afraid of being forgotten. Those who fear silence will keep talking, cram words into every gap, trying to cover up their own awkwardness with sound. But the more we talk, the lighter each word becomes, easier to drift past. Like background noise, no one truly registers. By contrast, there is a very different kind of person. They are comfortable with silence. They don't rush to grab every second just to speak and prove they exist. They only talk when there is genuinely something worth saying. Before answering, they allow themselves a few beats to pause, letting their thoughts settle, letting their words be chosen with care. And when they finish, they let the sentence fall, let it reverberate in the air, instead of hastily patching it over with a joke or a throwaway line. It is precisely silence that gives their words weight. When the empty spaces are respected, the people around them begin to lean in every time they open their mouths. And there is something else that's intriguing. Silence is like a mirror. It exposes other people's nature. Those who cannot tolerate the space will rush to fill it, and in the scramble to keep talking, they reveal their own fear, impatience, or an ego hungry for attention. Silence here is not coldness. It is a form of presence so complete it needs no noise. It is when you can sit there, say nothing, and the other person still feels they are with you, not abandoned in a room full of voices but lacking actual presence. There is a skinny line between "thank you" and "I appreciate you." And if you look closely, you'll see. "Thank you" acknowledges the action. "I appreciate you," the person believes. Most of us are used to saying, "Thank you for helping me today." Perfectly polite, not wrong. But it still revolves around what someone managed to do for us. The protagonist in this story chooses a different way to speak. Instead of stopping at "thank you," he looks the other person in the eye and says, "I appreciate you. You always show up when needed." In that, he's not only recognizing the action of helping today, but also seeing the other person's character, their steadiness. These qualities repeat. Someone who is there when it counts, a quiet yet enduring anchor. In a world where people are turned into functions, what can you do? What benefit do you bring? How are you helpful to me? Where everything is measured by efficiency, outcomes, contributions, the sentence, "I appreciate you as you are," suddenly feels almost luxurious, because it says, even if today you do nothing for me, even if you are not at your best, I still see the value in the way you live, the way you treat others, the way you show up in my life. Those who dare to say that and say it sincerely become very rare, and because they are rare, they are precious. Sometimes, what holds a relationship together is not grand gifts, but the moment someone hears, not just what you do, but you yourself, are what I cherish. Looking back over the entire journey in this video, you'll see that behind the 5 communication principles are not just talk tricks, but 5 inner qualities being steadily honed. Not to turn you into a flawless speaker, but so that every word you utter stands on the ground of a real person, one who knows how to listen, dares not to know, dares to admit, dares to be silent, and knows how to appreciate both themselves and others. In the end, your magnetism doesn't lie in the performance you put on for the world, but in the deep sense of calm others feel when they are beside you. A final, distinctly Stoic message. Attraction isn't about adding another layer of decoration. It's about subtracting performance, subtracting flattery, subtracting fear. When you dare to live